In the span of just a few short years, over 7,000 fast food establishments have permanently locked their doors throughout the United States. That figure alone should give anyone pause. But the reality behind that number tells a far more compelling story than any statistic ever could. In this breakdown, we're going to examine 15 fast food brands that are currently scaling back their operations, shuttering locations, and pulling out of markets they once dominated. This is not simply a catalog of struggling businesses. It is a deeper look at how the relationship between American consumers and the restaurants they once relied on has fundamentally shifted. Take a drive through the neighborhoods you know well. You will start to notice the signs everywhere. Lots where cars used to line up bumper to bumper now sit largely vacant. Windows that once glowed with neon signage are dark by 6 in the evening. Restaurants that served entire communities for decades are now covered in 4 lease banners, their drive-through speakers silent. The reasons these brands are struggling vary considerably from one chain to the next. Some are battling rising costs. Others are fighting an identity crisis. A few are simply failing to keep up with what modern customers demand. But underneath all of these individual stories lies a single overarching question that millions of Americans are quietly asking themselves. What is really happening to the restaurants that once felt like permanent fixtures of daily life? Let us begin. 15. Boston Market. There was a period in American dining history when Boston Market represented something genuinely appealing. A place where you could walk in and get a home-style rotisserie chicken dinner with real sides like mashed potatoes, cornbread, and steamed vegetables, all without spending an hour in the kitchen. The chain leaned heavily into the idea that it was the next best thing to a home-cooked meal, and for a while that pitch resonated with millions of families. At its height, Boston Market operated well over 1,000 locations across the country. The concept seemed almost recession-proof, affordable comfort food served quickly. But in recent years, the brand has undergone a dramatic contraction. Locations have been closing at an alarming rate, and in several states, Boston Market has vanished entirely. Reports of abrupt shutdowns, sometimes with employees learning about the closure on the same day it happens, have surfaced repeatedly. The core issue is not that people stopped craving rotisserie chicken. The problem is that the grocery store rotisserie, often priced at just $5 or $6, has become one of the most popular convenience items in the country. When a supermarket 3 minutes away offers a comparable product at half the price, the math simply stops working in Boston Market's favor. Add to that inconsistent quality, reduced menu options, and rising prices at remaining locations, and you have a brand that is rapidly losing its reason to exist in the minds of everyday consumers. 14. KFC at $50. That is the amount that a growing number of customers report spending on a single family dinner at KFC. And for many of those customers, that price tag has become the tipping point, the moment when a once automatic decision suddenly requires real deliberation. For generations, KFC occupied a unique and almost untouchable position in American fast food culture. Picking up a bucket of fried chicken on the way home was one of the simplest dinner solutions a family could ask for. There was no complicated ordering process, no agonizing over options. You grabbed the bucket, added a few sides, and dinner was handled. That effortless convenience is exactly what turned KFC into a household name, recognized around the globe. But the issue confronting KFC today is not that consumers have developed an aversion to fried chicken. Fried chicken remains enormously popular across every demographic. The real shift is occurring in how people evaluate whether the product they receive justifies the amount printed on their receipt. Customer complaints have coalesced around a remarkably consistent set of grievances: escalating prices, noticeably reduced portion sizes, and a growing sense that the overall dining experience has deteriorated compared to what it was 5 or 10 years ago. Compounding this perception problem is the intensifying competitive landscape. Chick-fil-A continues to deliver a level of service consistency that few chains can match. Popeyes has expanded aggressively and carved out a massive share of the fried chicken market with bold flavors and successful product launches. Even independent, locally owned chicken restaurants are siphoning away customers by offering superior quality, larger portions, or both at comparable prices. Under this sustained pressure, KFC has been forced to reduce its domestic footprint considerably, closing hundreds of underperforming restaurants over the past several years. And the significance of that cannot be overstated. This is not an obscure regional brand struggling to find an audience. KFC is one of the most iconic names in the entire history of the fast food industry. But transformative change rarely announces itself with a dramatic headline. It begins with the most mundane of decisions: standing at the counter, scanning the menu board, reading the total on the screen, and quietly concluding that tonight, cooking at home might be the better option. When enough people arrive at that same conclusion often enough, the consequences inevitably materialize in the most visible way possible: restaurants going dark, one after another. 13. The Subway. The gravest threat facing any restaurant is not a decline in foot traffic. It is the erosion of customer trust. And few brands illustrate that principle more clearly than Subway. There was an era when Subway locations seemed to occupy every available corner of commercial real estate in the country. They appeared inside strip malls, adjacent to gas station convenience stores, along major commuter routes, and tucked into the ground floors of office buildings. The brand expanded with such ferocity that it eventually surpassed 27,000 domestic locations, more than any other fast food operation in the United States. Subway's value proposition was never about burgers or fried foods. The brand positioned itself around a distinctly different idea: speed, freshness, and a perception of healthier eating. That messaging connected powerfully with a broad customer base, and for years, grabbing a Subway sandwich during the lunch hour was practically a reflex for millions of working Americans. But the current challenge extends well beyond pricing pressures. A mounting number of former regulars express a sentiment that the brand no longer delivers the dependable experience that originally earned their loyalty. Complaints about shrinking portion sizes, wildly inconsistent quality between different franchise locations, and a general decline in the overall dining experience have become pervasive. Additionally, a series of public controversies surrounding product ingredients and brand messaging has chipped away at consumer confidence incrementally but relentlessly. Meanwhile, competitors like Jersey Mike's have been expanding rapidly and capturing market share by emphasizing the very qualities Subway seems to be losing: consistency, generous portions, and a premium feel. Independent delis and sandwich shops are also thriving by offering the kind of reliable, personal experience that a massive franchise system struggles to replicate. The cumulative effect of these pressures has forced Subway to dismantle portions of the very empire it spent decades constructing. Thousands of locations have been closed over the past 10 years as the company undertakes a sweeping restructuring of its franchise operations. The most poignant aspect of the decline may be this: many loyal Subway customers did not return week after week because the chain produced the finest sandwich available. They returned because the experience was predictable and familiar. They knew precisely what to expect. But once that certainty begins to dissolve, customer behavior shifts with startling speed. Visits become less frequent. Locations grow quieter. And eventually, restaurants that serve their neighborhoods for a decade or more remove the signage for the last time. If you are finding this breakdown informative, take a moment to hit the like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss future content like this. 12. Domino's. You place the order. You wait the better part of half an hour. The doorbell chimes. You bring the box to the counter, lift the cardboard lid, and within a matter of seconds, you have already formed a verdict about whether this place will ever get your business again. That instantaneous judgment is part of what makes the pizza business so unforgiving, and it is precisely the kind of pressure that Domino's is navigating right now. Pizza is one of a very small number of foods where quality assessment happens the moment the packaging is opened. There is no waiting for the first bite. The appearance alone tells the customer most of what they need to know. For a long stretch, Domino's occupied the default position in household pizza ordering. When nobody felt like standing over a stove, Domino's was the path of least resistance: quick delivery, reasonable pricing, and a product that reliably met basic expectations. But an increasing chorus of customer feedback centers on a familiar cluster of dissatisfactions: thinner crusts, sparser toppings, escalating delivery surcharges, and orders that arrive looking noticeably different from what was advertised. It is important to contextualize this. Domino's is not a fragile startup. The company still maintains upwards of 21,000 locations worldwide and ranks among the largest pizza operations on the planet. But scale does not confer immunity from market pressure. During a recent organizational restructuring, more than 800 Domino's locations were shuttered or ceased operations across various domestic and international markets as the company worked to streamline its portfolio. Simultaneously, Little Caesars continues to attract price-conscious families with aggressive value pricing. Independent pizzerias are cultivating devoted followings by delivering a product whose quality is evident the instant the box opens. And therein lies Domino's most pressing vulnerability. The challenge is not about delivery logistics or app technology. It is about the widening gap between what customers expect when they place an order and what they actually receive when they open the lid. When the reflexive response shifts from "order the usual" to "let us try somewhere different tonight," the repercussions cascade quickly: diminished order volumes, weakened unit economics, and ultimately, locations that can no longer sustain themselves. 11. Arby's. When did you last actively choose to eat at Arby's? Not because you happened to spot the sign from the highway, but because you deliberately decided that Arby's was where you wanted to have dinner. For a significant portion of the population, that question is genuinely difficult to answer. And that inability to recall may represent the brand's most fundamental problem. Arby's never attempted to compete directly with the burger-centric giants. The entire brand identity was constructed around a singular differentiator: roast beef. While the rest of the fast food universe revolved around patties and buns, Arby's carved out its own lane with thinly sliced, stacked roast beef sandwiches and the now famous tagline proclaiming its meat-forward philosophy. That distinctiveness propelled the chain to more than 3,400 locations nationwide. But differentiation only retains value as long as consumers actively remember you and seek you out. And that awareness appears to be fading. The majority of customers drifting away from Arby's are not doing so out of anger or disappointment. There is no boycott, no viral controversy driving the exodus. People are simply ceasing to think about the brand at all. It has become functionally invisible in the mental landscape of mealtime decisions. Over the past 2 years, comparable store sales figures have continued their downward trajectory as customers migrate toward alternatives that feel more relevant. When a sandwich combo with a side and a beverage inches toward the cost of a complete sit-down meal at a neighborhood restaurant, the calculus shifts. The result is now visible in Arby's geographic footprint. While the chain still maintains over 3,000 locations, roughly 200 restaurants have been closed or eliminated during recent portfolio reviews conducted by parent company Inspire Brands. The takeaway here is not simply that a restaurant chain is contracting. It is that a brand which once occupied a genuinely distinctive position in the market is gradually vanishing from the daily routines of the people it was built to serve. Because for most businesses, having customers actively dislike your product is a serious problem. But having customers forget you exist entirely is often a far more terminal condition. 10. Hooters. Some brands do not lose their existing customer base first. They lose the generation that was supposed to replace them. That dynamic appears to be unfolding in real time at Hooters. During its peak years, Hooters was among the most recognized casual dining destinations in the country for watching live sports, eating wings, and socializing after the workday ended. From a single location in Clearwater, Florida, the concept expanded into a network exceeding 430 restaurants. The brand became embedded in a particular slice of American pop culture for an entire generation of diners. But the product that is losing relevance is not the food. The wings remain largely the same. The televisions still broadcast every major game. What has changed is the composition of the audience. Hooters' most devoted patrons increasingly belong to older demographic cohorts who have frequented the brand for years or even decades. The younger consumers who would need to fill those seats are not arriving in sufficient numbers to offset natural attrition. Societal norms around dining, entertainment, and socializing have evolved considerably, and the attributes that once gave Hooters its distinctive appeal no longer carry the same cultural currency. The financial evidence of this generational disconnect is becoming increasingly stark. From its peak of over 430 locations, The chain now operates fewer than 300 domestic restaurants. Comparable store revenue has declined across multiple consecutive reporting periods, and the company has closed dozens of underperforming units during successive rounds of operational cuts. Certain states have seen their last remaining Hooters location shut its doors permanently. The deeper lesson embedded in this story extends beyond the specifics of one wing restaurant. It raises the question that every consumer-facing brand must eventually confront. What happens when the generation that defined your success ages out, and the next generation sees no compelling reason to take their place? Quick reminder, if this content is giving you something to think about, a like and a subscribe go a long way in helping this channel continue producing in-depth breakdowns like this one. 9. Papa Murphy's. I just paid for my dinner, and now I have to go home and cook it myself. That sentiment, expressed by a customer walking out of a Papa Murphy's location, encapsulates nearly the entire strategic dilemma confronting this brand. When it first launched, Papa Murphy's take and bake model was a legitimately innovative concept. Customers selected their pizza, brought it home in its raw form, slid it into their own oven, and 20 minutes later pulled out a hot, fresh pizza that tasted like it came from a scratch kitchen. The idea gained substantial traction, propelling the chain past 1,500 locations and establishing it as one of the largest pizza brands in the country. But the way people think about convenience has undergone a fundamental transformation. After an exhausting day, the prospect of purchasing food that still requires additional preparation at home holds diminishing appeal for a large segment of the market. The expectation now is to open a container and eat. When a Papa Murphy's pizza still demands preheating the oven, waiting through a full bake cycle, and handling the cleanup, many consumers conclude that they might as well prepare something from scratch, or simply order a fully cooked pizza delivered directly to their front door. The model that once represented Papa Murphy's primary competitive advantage has gradually become its most significant liability. The brand occupies an awkward middle ground, not as convenient as delivery, yet not priced aggressively enough to consistently undercut the fully prepared alternatives. That positioning squeeze has produced measurable consequences. From its peak of over 1,500 stores, the chain now operates approximately 1,100 locations. Numerous franchise operators have exited the system or closed their restaurants as customer visit frequency continues to erode across many markets. The irony is that the underlying product often still receives genuine praise. Customers frequently compliment the fresh dough and generous ingredient portions. The pizza itself is not the problem. What has changed is the definition of convenience. And when that definition evolves beyond what a brand's core model can accommodate, even a quality product may not be enough to prevent contraction. 8. Firehouse Subs. I genuinely enjoy the food there. I just never seem to go anymore. That observation, shared by an acquaintance during a casual conversation, has proven to be a remarkably common sentiment regarding Firehouse Subs. And it captures a phenomenon that is distinctly different from the challenges facing most other brands on this list. Firehouse Subs was never purely a sandwich operation. The firefighter memorabilia adorning the walls, the photographs honoring local first responders, the origin story of two firefighter brothers who channeled their passion into a restaurant concept. All of those elements combined to create an emotional connection that transcended the menu. That narrative helped the brand expand to more than 1,200 locations and cultivate one of the most fiercely loyal customer followings in the fast casual sandwich segment. But emotional attachment does not override financial arithmetic indefinitely. A standard sandwich combination with a side and a beverage now approaches $17 at many Firehouse Subs locations. At that price point, a significant number of customers begin performing a mental cost-benefit analysis. Not because they have fallen out of love with the brand, and not because the product quality has declined, but simply because the competitive landscape offers more alternatives than ever before. Jersey Mike's continues its rapid national expansion. Local sandwich establishments compete aggressively on portion size, ingredient quality, and perceived value. Following its acquisition by Restaurant Brands International, Firehouse Subs initiated a more rigorous evaluation of its franchise portfolio. A meaningful number of underperforming locations have been closed or removed from the system as visitor counts no longer support the economics that once sustained them. The most telling aspect of this situation is that the majority of people who once frequented Firehouse Subs harbor no ill will toward the brand. They still appreciate the story behind it. But increasingly, they find themselves pausing before the transaction and asking a straightforward question. Is this particular lunch really worth this amount of money? And when that internal debate becomes frequent enough, the revenue impact manifests at the register long before it appears in closure announcements. 7. Moe's Southwest Grill. Welcome to Moe's. If you have ever stepped foot inside one of these restaurants, that enthusiastic, full-volume greeting from the entire crew behind the counter is probably seared into your memory. It was one of the signature elements that distinguished Moe's from every other fast casual burrito chain in the market. Complimentary tortilla chips upon arrival, a salsa bar overflowing with options, oversized burritos that left customers feeling like they had received extraordinary value for their money. Those ingredients, both literal and experiential, powered Moe's expansion to more than 700 locations and positioned the brand as one of Chipotle's most credible competitors in the Tex-Mex fast casual space. But the feedback circulating among current and former customers has taken on a notably different tone in recent years. Portions have reportedly shrunk. The salsa bar, once a point of pride, has been scaled back at many locations. A burrito meal with a drink now commonly exceeds $15. And as prices climb, consumer scrutiny intensifies proportionally. Every ingredient, every portion size, every aspect of the experience gets evaluated against the price being charged. While Chipotle has surged past 3,700 restaurants nationally and continues to post strong growth, Moe's has been shedding the very characteristics that once differentiated it. The consequences are now reflected in the data. From a peak exceeding 700 locations, the chain currently operates slightly more than 500 stores following multiple waves of closures and restructuring initiatives. Perhaps the most bittersweet dimension of this decline is that longtime customers do not primarily remember Moe's for its burritos. They remember the atmosphere, the energy of walking through the door and being greeted like a regular. But when a brand whose entire identity was built on a spirit of abundance begins making its customers feel shortchanged, the erosion tends to accelerate rapidly. If you have made it this far, you are clearly invested in understanding these trends. Show the channel some love. Like, comment with your experiences, and subscribe for more deep dives into the forces reshaping the restaurant industry. 6. Hardee's 5:30 in the morning. The parking lot of a Hardee's in a small southern town is beginning to fill. Pickup trucks idle near the entrance. Construction crews, long-haul drivers, and early shift workers file through the doors, all seeking the same thing: a hot, freshly baked biscuit and a strong cup of coffee before a demanding day. For decades, that pre-dawn ritual was a defining feature of Hardee's identity. The brand did not rely primarily on its burgers to build loyalty in its core markets. It was the breakfast biscuits, made from scratch in the store each morning, that cemented Hardee's as an indispensable part of the daily routine in hundreds of communities, particularly across the Southeast and Midwest. That reputation helped the chain grow to nearly 3,000 locations at its zenith. But the narratives emerging from current customers paint a markedly different picture. Reports of drive-through wait times stretching to 20 minutes with only a handful of cars in line, malfunctioning equipment leading to unavailable menu items, orders that arrive incomplete or incorrect. The complaints are not about advertising campaigns or brand positioning. They center on fundamental operational execution, the baseline elements that are supposed to function reliably every single visit. Simultaneously, pricing at many Hardee's locations has climbed into the $14 to $15 range for a standard burger combination. When costs increase but the actual customer experience deteriorates, the resulting frustration compounds rapidly. The operational data now reflects this disconnect plainly. The Hardee's system has contracted to approximately 1,600 locations, a steep decline from its peak. Several major franchise operators have entered bankruptcy proceedings in recent years, triggering dozens of restaurant closures across multiple states. The underlying lesson is instructive. Hardee's is not losing patrons because the American appetite for biscuits and burgers has diminished. It is losing patrons because the foundational elements of the experience, speed, consistency, reliability, are failing to meet the minimum standard that customers require. Sometimes, a brand does not deteriorate because of a single catastrophic error. It deteriorates because of an accumulation of thousands of small, frustrating encounters that gradually deplete customer patience until they simply choose a different parking lot the next morning. 5. Red Lobster. For millions of Americans, Red Lobster represented something genuinely special, an accessible entry point to seafood dining that did not require a coastal address or a reservation at an upscale establishment. The chain became famous for its Cheddar Bay biscuits, its celebratory atmosphere, and promotions that turned certain seasons into unofficial holidays for seafood enthusiasts. At its peak, Red Lobster operated over 700 locations and was one of the most recognized casual dining brands in the country. But a combination of strategic missteps and shifting consumer preferences has sent the chain into a dramatic tailspin. A controversial decision to offer an unlimited shrimp promotion as a permanent menu item reportedly resulted in staggering financial losses, as the company significantly underestimated how much product customers would consume. That promotional miscalculation, layered on top of already rising commodity costs, labor challenges, and evolving dining habits, pushed the company into bankruptcy proceedings. Hundreds of locations closed in rapid succession, sometimes with little advance notice to employees or communities. Entire regions that once had multiple Red Lobster restaurants found themselves with none. The decline of Red Lobster underscores a critical vulnerability in the casual dining segment. When your brand promise is built around abundance and celebration, any move that diminishes that perception can trigger an outsized negative reaction from the very customers you depend on most. 4. Bojangles. It's bow time. Across the Carolinas, Georgia, and much of the Deep South, that phrase carries a recognition factor that rivals any national advertising campaign. Bojangles was never positioned as merely another fried chicken chain. For its loyal following, it represents a culinary tradition: the bold, Cajun-spiced chicken, the handmade biscuits emerging from ovens at dawn, the unmistakable flavors that feel rooted in a specific place and culture. That deep regional connection fueled Bojangles' growth to more than 800 locations and earned the brand a level of devotion that most national chains would envy. But the sentiment gaining traction among longtime customers is one that should concern any brand built on authenticity. It just does not taste the same anymore. For a company like Bojangles, that particular criticism cuts far deeper than a complaint about pricing or wait times. Customers are not visiting for generic fried chicken. They are seeking a specific flavor profile they have known and trusted for years. As the company has pursued geographic expansion beyond its traditional southern stronghold, a growing contingent of customers believes that the consistency and distinctiveness of the product have suffered. The biscuits, once a point of universal praise, no longer feel as exceptional at every location. The seasoning on the chicken, some regulars argue, has been diluted. All the while, Popeyes and Chick-fil-A continue to gain ground in many of the same geographic markets. Bojangles still operates upwards of 800 locations, but the company has been forced to close or scale back in certain expansion territories that failed to generate the anticipated returns. The cautionary thread running through this story is clear. For a brand whose entire value proposition rests on a distinct regional identity, losing customers to competitors is a manageable problem. Losing the identity itself, the flavors, the consistency, the feeling of authenticity, is an existential one. 3. Denny's, the classic American diner experience, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is under significant pressure, and Denny's sits squarely at the center of that conversation. For decades, Denny's was the default destination for late-night meals, early morning breakfasts, and everything in between. The Grand Slam breakfast became one of the most recognized menu items in the entire restaurant industry. But the economics of operating a full-service restaurant around the clock have become increasingly challenging. Labor costs have surged. The late-night customer base has shrunk as habits and lifestyles have evolved. And the breakfast segment specifically has seen an explosion of competition, from fast casual concepts to drive-through chains now offering elaborate morning menus at lower price points. Denny's has responded by closing underperforming locations at a steady clip, reducing its domestic footprint from well over 1,600 restaurants to significantly fewer. The company has publicly acknowledged the need to modernize its image and streamline its operations, but the transition is proving difficult. Convincing a new generation of diners that a legacy diner brand deserves their attention and their dollars when countless trendier alternatives exist is a formidable undertaking. We are past the halfway mark now. If you are enjoying this comprehensive look at the changing fast food landscape, that like button is right there. Subscribe if you have not already, and let me know in the comments which of these closures has surprised you the most.